One hammer, 3 best friends, 22 days, 21 victims. Today's crime story is disturbing, and we will know the worst of humankind. Dnepropetrovsk Maniacs began their killing spree on June 25, 2007, with their final victims being found on July 16, 2007. With no known motivation, we are left wondering what drove these men to murder. The Dnepropetrovsk Maniacs, also known as the Hammer Maniacs, shocked the whole world with their brutal and sadistic crimes. Their killing spree was marked by extreme violence and a complete disregard for human life. The lack of a clear motive only adds to the chilling mystery surrounding their actions, leaving us all perplexed and disturbed by the depths of human depravity. This chilling crime story is not for the faint of heart. It is a haunting tale that forces us to confront the darkest corners of the human psyche. The Dnepropetrovsk Maniacs' heinous acts push the boundaries of comprehension, leaving us questioning what could drive individuals to commit such unspeakable horrors. Viktor Sayenko, Igor Suprenyuk, and Alexander Hansa attended school together and became friends around the time they were 14 years old. The three bonded when they worked together to overcome their fears. For instance, Sayenko and Suprenyuk were both afraid of heights. Together, the boys decided to face their fear and not only stood on the balcony of their 14th floor apartment, but hung over the railing for several hours. Their friend Hansa suffered from hemophobia, an intense and irrational fear of blood. Along with that, he also refused to bathe his kitten. While most people would fear bathing a kitten for fear of being scratched, that was not his concern. He was afraid he would scald it. Just as two of the friends had faced their fear, it was time for Hansa to do the same, and Suprenyuk had an idea. They would torture stray dogs, thus facing the fear of blood and of harming an animal. Together, the three boys captured dogs in a wooded area near their home, hung them from trees, disemboweled them, and then took photos next to the corpse. Their twisted actions not only showcased their lack of empathy but also highlighted their deep-seated psychological issues. The disturbing photos they took were a chilling testament to the darkness that resided within them. From here, things got more dark and brutal. They didn't stop with dogs. They recorded a video of themselves torturing a white kitten. The three were fond of documenting their activities, not only photos and videos of their animal abuse, but also of them drawing symbols in blood, including Nazi symbols. Suprenyuk happened to be born on April 20th, the same day as Adolf Hitler, and was photographed using a toothbrush for a mustache imitating Hitler. Other photos showed the boys giving the Nazi salute. After high school, they held odd jobs here and there. Hansa worked as a pastry chef and a construction worker. Suprenyuk used a car that his parents had given him to work as an unlicensed taxi driver. Sayenko actually attended a metallurgy institute and worked in security. The odd job didn't keep them from committing crime though. Suprenyuk used his taxi service as a means to pick up and rob passengers with the help of his friends. Perhaps they felt untouchable considering they came from respected families. Some would even say their parents were wealthy and influential, having ties to local law enforcement. Vladimir Suprenyuk had been employed as a test pilot and often flew with Leonid Kuchma, who was then president of Ukraine from 1994 to 2005. At 19, the men took their interest to a whole new level. Gone were the days of torturing animals. Late on June 25, 2007, Sayenko and Suprenyuk were out for a walk. Supranyuk carried a hammer, and when they passed 33-year-old Yekaterina Elchkino, they officially moved on from animal torture and into the world of homicide. Supranyuk spun around and used the hammer to hit Yekaterina in the side of her head. He hit her over and over until she finally got killed. They left her behind and moved on. When they spotted a man asleep on a bench nearby, they did the same. They took Roman Petrovich into the woods and beat him unrecognizable. As if that wasn't bad enough, they gouged his eyes out with a screwdriver. The next morning, at about 5 a.m., Yekaterina's body was discovered by her mother. On July 1st, 2 more bodies were discovered in the nearby town of Novomoskovsk. Yevgenia Grishchenko and Nikolai Serchuk. On July 6, 3 more bodies were discovered. One of them was Egor Nechvoloda, a recently discharged army recruit. He was walking home from a nightclub when he was attacked. His mother found his body the next morning near their apartment building. 28-year-old Yelena Shram was murdered just around the corner on Kosyora Street. Supranyuk admitted to hitting her with a hammer he had kept hidden under his shirt when she walked towards him. Once she was down, he proceeded to hit her several more times. She had been carrying a bag of clothes, and they used them to clean their hammer before tossing the bag out and moving on to their final victim of the evening. Valentina Hansa, not related to Alexander Hansa, was a mother of 3 and had a disabled husband. On July 7th, 14-year-olds Andriy Sidyuk and Vadim Lyakov were out fishing when they were approached. They were attacked and Andriy was killed, but Vadim escaped, hidden in the woods. Vadim was arrested for the murder of his friend. He was denied legal counsel and beaten by the police. He was repeatedly questioned, but his story remained the same. It helped that the attack on Andriy and Vadim was also witnessed by 2 other children who had been hidden in a tent nearby. With their statements, Vadim was no longer a suspect. Vadim was able to provide investigators with a description of his attacker, and they were able to create sketches of their perpetrators. It wasn't until now that police began to connect all the murders, linking them to the pair described by Vadim. On July 12, 48-year-old Sergei Yatsenko disappeared after riding his Dnepropetrovsk motorcycle. As if his struggle with cancer wasn't enough, he was beaten to death. His body wasn't found until 4 days later. On July 14, 45-year-old Natalia Marmachuk drove through a wooded area near the village of Dievoka on her scooter. Supranyuk and Sayanko knocked her off her scooter before beating her to death with a hammer. They were seen by the locals but managed to escape. Their murder spree continued, with at least 2 victims found on July 14, 2 victims found on July 15, and 2 more victims found on July 16. There was no clear pattern to their victims. Rather, they appeared to have been selected at random. It was more the murder of convenience. They also didn't care about age. Victims ranged from children to the elderly, and they seemingly enjoyed giving their beatings, using hammers and steel construction bars. Victims were always hit in the head, with many hits directly to the face. Some were mutilated and tortured. Some, just like Roman Petrovich, had their eyes gouged out. Some would speculate that their motive was robbery. Many victims had been robbed of their cell phones and other valuables that were discovered to have been pawned at local shops. However, this motive didn't add up, just as many victims were not robbed. One particularly wild attack was against a pregnant woman. Beating her to death wasn't enough for them. They cut open her belly and removed her unborn child from her womb. Vasily Paskalov, a criminal investigator, led the task force that left Kiev. Their investigation was kept secret and all information related to the murders was kept close. No information was released to the public while over 2,000 investigators from most local law enforcement agencies worked on this case. Though the police kept their lips sealed, the people knew something was going on. As you might expect, they made sure all their tasks were completed during daylight and remained inside locked doors after dark. But police couldn't keep their search hidden from everyone. They did need help to identify the killers. They carefully and selectively distributed their sketches as well as lists of stolen property to local pawn shops. Those shops were able to identify several of the stolen items and led police to Viktor Sayenko, Igor Suprenyuk and Alexander Hansa. The three men were arrested on July 23, 2007 by Sayenko and Suprenyuk in a pawn shop where they had just tried to sell a stolen cell phone. Hansa was arrested at home where he was reportedly trying to get rid of their remaining stolen property, including an attempt to flush other stolen cell phones down the toilet. Many items were recovered, the phones were ruined. While the stolen cell phones were ruined, the suspects' phones were intact, as were their personal computers, which contained multiple video recordings of the murders. One video even happened to have been leaked onto the internet. A video of the murder of Sergei Yatsenko titled "Three Guys, One Hammer." In the video, he can be seen lying on his back in a wooded area. One of his attackers can be seen hitting him in the head repeatedly with a hammer that was covered with a plastic bag. The other attacker is seen stabbing Sergei in the eye and abdomen with a screwdriver. The video shows Sergei's final moment as he is struck with the hammer one last minute to ensure his death. The video itself lasts over 4 minutes, with Sergei going in and out of consciousness and one of the men smiling at the camera. The video also shows the men walking out of the woods and to their car while they calmly discuss their crime. One such comment expresses surprise that Sergei continued to breathe even after the screwdriver was plunged into his exposed brain. In the video, the killers are seen washing their hands and the hammer with a water bottle as they laugh. Investigators found photographs in which the suspects attended the funerals of their victims. In these photos, they can be seen smiling and flipping off the coffins and gravestones. Other photos showed them posing alongside mutilated animal corpses. Altogether, the prosecution had gathered over 300 photographs and 2 videos, which were ultimately shown in court. Some of the photos were captioned, "The weak must die, the strongest will conquer." Police even found newspaper clippings from the crimes in Suprenyuk's apartment. Altogether, the 3 men were charged with involvement in 29 separate incidents, including 21 murders. Suprenyuk was charged with 21 counts of murder, 8 robberies, and 1 count of animal cruelty. Sayenko was charged with 18 counts of murder, 5 robberies, and 1 count of animal cruelty. Hansa was charged with 2 counts of robbery. All 3 men confessed quickly, though Suprenyuk later withdrew his confession. Their trial began in June 2008, with both Sayenko and Hansa pleading guilty, while Suprenyuk pleaded no guilty. Apparently, Suprenyuk was hoping for an insanity plea, and when that was not accepted, his lawyer Viktor Chevskus left. Viktor Sayenko's father, Igor Sayenko, took the lead as their defense attorney. Hansa's attorneys argued that their client had only been involved with a single incident months before the killings began, a robbery in which he admitted his guilt. The defense's primary tactic was to attack the prosecution. They argued illegal searches, improperly kept records, and even problems during questioning. Igor Sayenko questioned the video taken during the search of the suspects' apartments. The video itself repeatedly stopped and started, showing evidence obtained only after being picked up by investigators, but never the moment it was discovered. They also argued that the men in the murder video were not their clients.